Three Grots in a Vox is intended for a mature audience. This means there will be crude language and discussions of adult themes, especially if we're talking about Tactical Marines or Gabriel Seth. Viewer discretion is not only advised but encouraged. All opinions are our own and often given for humorous purposes. Any advice is given largely for entertainment purposes and would probably be ignored. But if you do learn something useful, count it as a win.
Hello and welcome to episode 5? Tinker.
You sure?
One of them. Of our ongoing series looking at each of the Nephilim missions. They're the same as the Nakban ones, but because of the other changes, they are a little bit different. So this mission is Conversion.
But a little bit different.
They're more or less. It's the same mission. It's just you've got the CP change, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's fair.
The mission's the same. You just might have a different army doing it. So, Mark, talk us through the rules, because otherwise, if John does it, he'll cock it up.
Woohoo! We're a 5-objective mission. You've got the quarter deployment with 18 inches between opposing forces rather than 24. You've got an objective in the middle. It is a hold, 1 hold, 2 hold, more mission. You gain a CP at the start of each player's turn, as is standard these days in Nephilim. However, there is a rider on that one, and you only gain the CP at the start of the command phase if your warlord is on the field, which does include being in a transport. So if your warlord is off the field or dead, then you ain't getting no CP.
Yeah. Kill the warlord, Blade of Sanguinius.
Is somebody who wants to be right up there in the mix of things, or sacrificing himself like no warlords we know.
Certainly not Abaddon. That'd be a good choice. All right, Corrupted Ground. At the end of each player's turn, the player whose turn it is scores 4 victory points if they control the opponent's deployment zone objective, scores 2 if they control 1 or more objectives in no man's land, so they're the ones on the sides, loses 1 if you do not control the one in your own deployment zone, and this part of Corrupted Ground, the points from that are basically caps. You can never go below 0, so I guess if your opponent... Yeah. It's very easy, I guess, to control one of the sides and get 2 points.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it tends to devolve again into you in one half of the board, the opponent in the other half of the board. You move to the one that's closer to you than otherwise, and fight over the middle, really.
Yeah.
Most engagements I've seen on this one.
I really like Relentless Assault, behind enemy lines, Blade of Sanguinius. There's some really good objectives for this one. I think it's really quite...
They can be. I mean, the deployment zone is a little small, but equally so, you're very incentivized to move out of your deployment zone and leave the odd gap or two.
Because it's very deep, it makes it hard to screen. Because anything trying to screen out that back corner isn't going to have any impact on the game whatsoever.
I was going to say, and if we go back to, like, standard grade maths, it's a long fucking time ago for me, but, like, if you take this point on the top right of the player B's deployment zone and you draw the line to the middle, that's 9 inches. So then if you draw a line up to the point on the sort of bottom left of the player A's deployment zone, that's 9 inches. So basically, like, Pythagoras tells me 9 squared plus 9 squared is like 162. So technically from that corner to that corner, your deployment zones are only about 12 inches apart. Maybe 13 inches, because I think 13 times 13 is like 169, right? And
did you just use Pythagoras in a Warhammer video?
I did, yes. If you
what do you
if you don't think I use
Tony?
maths in my games of Warhammer, you're taking the piss. You're a physics teacher, yeah. Fuck off. So, 2 things about that if the deployment zones are only 13 inches apart, right? One is, if you're a Blood Angels player, Death Company on the front line as far forward as they can be obscured, you're charging anything in the opponent's turn. You're getting potentially behind enemy lines Relentless Assault turn 1, plus you can easily have a second unit back them up, because 12 inches a Sanguinary Guard, that means if a Sanguinary Guard's there and they jump, they're 1 inch away from the enemy deployment zone.
Especially if they're moving 14 because they got Rathabal.
Yeah, if you've got Rathabal, you're in the enemy deployment zone with 2 units in turn 1. 1 unit can charge anything they want. The other unit will have a fairly decent choice of charges as well. This could be a Blood Chalice mission, so 2 units in the Assault Doctor in turn 1. You're swarming them. So
this
I guess
is a great mission for assaulty armies, especially fast assaulty armies.
And Armigers moving out quickly to hold OBSEC things, and this one being quite resilient.
Oh yeah, load of
very tasty
warglaives.
as well.
If you had a horde of warglaives, you could just run them across the middle there.
Yeah,
Claim things quickly.
So you have to be very smart in your deployment. You either need to be right on those front lines, or you need to be 6 inches back. Like, I played Necrons on this map one time, and because they get, like, the whole Necrons get that 6-inch move, and pre-game move, and then they can move 6 inches again, and then they can advance with those Gauze Reapers. Like, I had to deploy, like, halfway back my deployment zone. I was like, if Necrons go first, I'm going to get shot off the table by about 40 Gauze Reapers. That's 80 shots, so this is got to be smart in your deployment on this one. And again, I think you need to look at the two in no man's land and see where the opponent isn't strong, capture one of them, and then pressure the other or pressure the middle. That's how I would play this.
So you've got potential for Oaths of the Moment. You've got potential for raised banners here if you want to be holding 3 of them throughout the game. There's definitely got to look for it. Engage. I probably wouldn't want to take engage on all fronts on this one, because I'd want to be able to play where I want to play rather than feeling encouraged to go where I don't want to play.
It's still an option, but I think what you're going to find is you're in 3 table quarters, not 4.
Likewise, R&D certainly has play if you've got things that are deep striking to come on and do it. Your opponent is unlikely to be able to screen you out of all the 4 quarters that you need to do it in reliably throughout the whole game. So
I think I would recommend people to deploy quite conservatively on this map, because I know it's very tempting, and we've already been talking about it, to deploy right in that corner there and go for that turn 1 charge. But if you've got turn 2 and you're deployed right at the front there, then you've just invited your opponent into your deployment zone.
Yeah.
And you could lose a big chunk of your army to a nasty alpha strike there. So I think, maybe I'm too timid, I think I would probably deploy quite conservatively on this one.
It depends on who you're up against and what your army is, I guess. The other thing I was going to say, and maybe my last point on this map, is these 2 side objectives are only 12 inches from said deployment zones. So again, even if they've got a unit that can only move 6 or something, they're only 6 inches from those objectives. So I play Marines, obviously. I take double incursors. I could be tempted in deployment to put incursors on both in the no man's land, and I think that's backfired on me before. Like, it might be better to be strong on one, and then
one's closer to you than the other. One's 12 inches away from you, the other's 15 inches away from you.
Exactly. So it might be like, I played this map in the GT against Tyranids, and I went strong on the one that was close to me, because I felt like if I'd gone on to the one that was close to the Tyranids, I just didn't feel safe.
They'd have a much easier time leaping onto you, and Tyranids can be very fast. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what's going to be quality for this map?
No. What?
Reavers.
Tell us.
Reavers.
Because...
Well, they can use that strat to take away OBSEC. So you can drop them down, steal the OBSEC, and if you've got another character with that giving OBSEC thing, you can drop them down and just steal their home objective.
Even I
no matter if they're still alive on it. What?
That's too much logic even for me, mate.
I guess. What's the other one? Who's that? Could you use that Phobos Reaver Lieutenant for it?
You can use the Phobos Reaver Lieutenant
you
for
could
it.
use the strats to take away their OBSEC, and then use give him the upgrade that gives him OBSEC.
Yep.
And then you can just drop down and steal their home objective. Then they can't score any points. In fact, they lose points.
They do lose points. And on that bombshell, we'll catch you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.
For 6.